Hey guys, it's Matt. Welcome back to the old-fashioned radio show where we do it like they did in the 40s, gathering around the radio with dim lights, no Wi-Fi and other mind control devices beaming through the house in the 1940s like they're doing now. You might want to light a fire, but only if you have a chimney in the house. Get your Ovaltine ready and gather around, because when a reality is completely melting down all around us, all we can do is make fun of it. Now, traditionally for Americans, over about 100-year history, the radio has been a form of news, and I will continue that tradition here with news that you need to know and that you care about, like the Republican presidential primaries, news that you care about. Donald Trump with landslide victories in both Iowa and New Hampshire. Nikki Haley in a firm command of second place, but still far off Trump's lead, and all the other degenerate losers like Chris Christie and Ron DeSantis getting less than 5 to 1% of the vote. Ron DeSantis in New Hampshire got 0.7%. I don't know if that's because he's just a complete degenerate, or he actually had announced at that point, like Chris Christie did, that he's going back to run his Papa John's outlets and he's getting out of the race. The old-fashioned radio show, via our on-the-ground reporters, were able to do an exit interview with over 200 Iowa and New Hampshire voters, all voted for Trump. And the question was, why are you interested in putting Trump back into the White House? There was a blank section where one could use a number 2 pencil to write in freeform. All sections were left blank. When asked then why were you voting Trump, what did he do for you in the first 4 years he was president, there was no response. They didn't know, but they said Trump's our man in the second term. One Iowa potato farmer that we were able to talk to summed up the sentiment for the entire group, saying he was blocked by Democrats in the first term, and they're confident in the second term he's able to fulfill all the promises that he couldn't fulfill in the first term. So wrapping up the first segment of news that you care about, the segments of news in the old-fashioned radio show will be called News That You Care About. Looks like Ron DeSantis and the other degenerate Chris Christie are out of the race, and they will be returning to their respective holes, climbing back into the holes from which they came. Now, before continuing, I think it's very prudent, whatever that means, to address a troll comment that came about a week ago, something you should be very concerned with. He said, beware the jester. Beware the man that tries to interpret reality and talk truth and also tell a joke at the same time. I didn't know this. Apparently one is not compatible with the other. So there's questionnaires going out as we speak to all channels like my own that talk truth, that try to get to the bottom of this reality. The questionnaire basically says, do you believe the world is generally fake or a false presentation? And all of us say yes, of course. The second one, do you then try to deliver the truth to the people that listen to you? We all have to say yes. The third one, do you ever tell a joke? I had to check yes. This troll recommends you immediately turn off anybody that has checked the third box. And just so there's no misunderstanding, I just delivered the news that you care about. I'm going to deliver the third box, and anybody that wants to leave should leave now. So here we go. Just so there's no misunderstanding, I'm very honest when I filled out the questionnaire. So here's a joke. Today, a man knocked on my door and asked me for a small donation for the local swimming pool for kids. I asked him, would you like a small, medium, or very large donation? He said, as large of a donation as you can. So I went and got him a bucket of water. That one's a freaking knee slapper. Gets me every time. I'll end with the radio presentation voice now. Just talk to you just like we talk. We'll go back to the way the old-fashioned radio show typically is presented, with real people, the few real people in this world kind of communicating with each other. You through the comments, me through this platform. So if anybody here is new or stumbled upon this video, you know there's no real election, right? I mean, you know that, right? They're going through the primary process now, and the Republicans are deciding who's going to be No, it's been decided. It's been like a few months? It was decided in 1975, probably. They knew they had handpicked, is that a word? Donald Trump, along with a few other candidates, that they would be putting into the position of, or the puppet role of president at this time in history. In the time period between when the script that George Soros presents the floating Baphomet is kind of sorted out and the actual day of the false presentation at the polling place, there something could happen, right, to the primary candidate. They believe Donald Trump's going to be able to go back in and be president. But, these minions, even though they're not the same spiritual entity that we are, they're still in the meat suit. They still have muscles and flesh and bone, and something could happen. But of course, these minions are prepared for that. There's somebody else or even 3 or 4 people that have all memorized the same lines. So if Donald Trump is not able to go back in, they've got a plan B. And that person has memorized the same lines and will read their cue cards in the exact same way. Think of a play on Broadway. You have the lead actor or actress. Can I say that legally? Actress? Is that allowed? Is somebody coming to get me right now? You have the lead, and then you have like the understudy. If the lead gets sick, somebody else can step in so the show can go on. Very similar to the Ron Howard presentation, all very real and legitimate. Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks and his son Chet Hanks. That little monster almost made his way into that movie. Most people don't know that. Remember in that movie, Kevin Bacon in his 6 Degrees or whatever, he was the backup crew, and he gets the phone call, and he's in bed with that girl, and he's like, I got to get the phone. I'm the backup crew. The backup crew gets the guest list together and gets the pigs in the blankets and prepare the part. You're going to the moon, Kevin. It's all for real. You're going to see. He was the backup crew for Ken Mattingly, who didn't get the measles. And that story, by the way, is all very, very real. And my friend Tony, if you're listening, how many more decades need to go by where nobody goes back, where you start to question the initial story? So you're really smart. You say it's 22 mile to Davenport. See, now we're pushing 60 years. Nobody's been back. Well, is it about 80 years? It's okay. It's still everything's 1969, completely legitimate. 80 years? 100. What if it was 7,000 years and nobody's been back? What if it was 100,000 years, a whole age, like the Cretaceous turned into the Paleolithic? I mean, the whole age. What if an entire precession of the equinoxes happened? Isn't that like 26,000 years? I don't know what that is, but precession of the equinoxes, and nobody's been back to the moon except Matt Damon's still on Mars. Tony, if you're listening, would you believe it then? See, people like me, once it got to be like 40 years, we went, wait a second. What technology goes backwards? There was a toaster in 1950 and it got better. If the toaster came out, all his bells and whistles and an ice maker and all this shit, and then today all we had was like the toaster and it wouldn't even work, you'd say something's not quite right. The people that run this world, that sit around the creepy table with the Whopper computer right behind them, they push that damn thing in on wheels, the giant Whopper computer from War Games, so they can get real-time information on everybody's likes, tweets, and comments. Just sits behind them. The creepy table goes, and it lights up like a blue light special whenever it has information to share with the creepy table. They're probably upset in terms of the false history they presented to us over hundreds of years, that they didn't make a bunch of more shit up because they just can't believe what people are buying in today's age. I mean, if they had to do all over again, it wouldn't have been Lindbergh one flight from New York to Paris or wherever he went is across the Atlantic. They would have made all sorts of shit up because they see people believe anything. They would have had him set that damn thing on autopilot, drop that plane down to 10 feet above the waves, and then go to the back of the plane, hang off the back and spear hunt whales and fish to feed himself. They would have made shit up like that. I'm not joking. They sit around in their smoking rooms, their $4,000 cigars, and they're actually a little bit upset. We could have done anything in terms of our presentation of history. We could have put Papa Smurf in as the 5th president. People would have believed because nobody knows after the first 4. I'm not even joking. Washington, Adams, Jefferson, Madison. Everybody knows Dolly Madison more than what's the first name of that guy? James Madison. And then nobody knows after that. Nobody. I mean, one person, the person that maintains the Library of Congress knows. That's it. I looked to look it up because I didn't know. It's Monroe. But who? That's what I'm saying. Around the creepy table, we could have put in Papa Smurf. Nobody would have known the difference. You look at the old paintings, you see Washington's face. Picture him now in the painting that you know, and then Adams in the painting you know, and his more famous cousin or brother is the one associated with that beer. That's the one I'm more interested in, the one that presented that great ale from Boston or whatever, but we'll take this John Adams, whoever the heck he is. Jefferson, Monticello, whatever the hell that place is called. Then Madison, which for some reason Dolly Madison is more important. And then Monroe, who might be related to Ada Monroe from Cold Mountain. That's where you put Papa Smurf, right at that position. Because John Quincy Adams next, people know him. Nobody knows that middle position. Put Papa Smurf in, everybody would have believed it. They tell us he was a 2-term president. White House painted all in blue for 8 years, then back to white. Now let's pause for a second, folks, related to what I said a few minutes ago. Very important proviso here and flashing warning sign. It's dangerous for some of you to continue listening to this presentation because don't forget what that troll said. He said, quote, end quote, Beware the jester. Someone that actually tries to make fun of reality so everybody listening can more easily see through the next trick that's coming. There's people that are at all grades here in this one-room Amish classroom. The old guard don't need my help, but some people do. But beware, if a joke is told while delivering truth, or in this case, making fun of reality, that can be highly dangerous, just like the Hunt for Red October. Mr. Ambassador, I remind you it is highly dangerous for your subs to be in close proximity to our subs. That's how wars have started, Mr. Ambassador. That's how YouTube channels get shut down and people get relegated to BitChute, Mr. Ambassador. Now, if you're going to continue listening, that's the last warning I will give in this presentation, okay? Fromers tried to warn you. This was no average or ordinary troll. Possessed a degree of intelligence that we haven't seen for quite a while, just above an iguana lizard. It had an intelligence just above an iguana lizard. That is highly superior for one of these trolls that try to invade this channel from time to time. Now let's move on. Here's another segment of news that you care about. NASA has postponed its plans to send real humans to the moon after, delays hit its hugely ambitious Artemis program, which aims to get space boots bouncing again on the lunar surface for the first time in half a century. Just in that little segment that I read you, there's 3 problems already that have to be stopped and talked about, at least in the way the bot is presenting this news article. 3 problems just in that. Hugely ambitious Artemis program. Bot, if you're listening to me in real time, why is it hugely ambitious? You're really smart and you tell us it was done in 1969. Remember Tom Hanks up there with a pencil and paper and all that? They had no iPhone. The computers were the size of 4 football fields. All that. You say it was done in 1969. You're going to just do the same thing, but it's hugely ambitious. Is it hugely ambitious for today, a Boeing 777 to take off from, say, LaGuardia Airport and fly to London's Heathrow or Gatwick? Well, of course that's not hugely ambitious. The Wright brothers started flight in 1903, and things have progressed from there slowly. Exactly my point. The Wright brothers started it, and then things advanced. It's not hugely ambitious for a flight to take off from New York and go across the Atlantic today. It might happen 1 or 2 times a month. But it's hugely ambitious for the same exact parallel. 1969, that you say guys went up there with pencil and paper, and then the technology of today, bot, don't ever use those words again. You've completely trivialized the term. Now one can use hugely ambitious for almost anything. When the weather breaks in early May, my cousin's going to put a lemonade stand out front. There's 2 cars that drive by a day. That is hugely ambitious for the young man. No, it's not. It's just a kid trying to make a few quarters. Stop ruining the English language, bot, and think before you run your algorithms. Here's the second problem in the little segment that I read you, which aims to get space boots bouncing again. Bot, leave the jokes for people like me. You're not capable of pulling it off. Just stick to the facts, ma'am. Finally, back to the lunar surface for the first time in half a century. No. You can't hold it on to. Don't try to hold it because don't try to hold on to that. It's not the first time in half a century. It's been more than half a century. Can't use that anymore. Don't try to hold on to this. Hasn't been that. No, it's been more than half a century. Get the facts right, bot. Sorry, continuing to read. The U.S. Space Agency has announced the Artemis 3 mission to land 4 astronauts near the lunar South Pole will be delayed a year until September 2026. Artemis 2, a 10-day expedition to send a crew around the moon and back to test life support systems. We could spend an hour making fun of this one paragraph. Will also be pushed back to September 2025. Oh, now 2026. Now, what do you think is going to happen? It's September 2025. Push it back. It's September 2026. Push it. Both September. Matt, they're just using this to work their creepy gematria into an article. Exactamundo. Problem number 1 with this short segment I just read. Actually, it's quite funny. First mission, Artemis 2, 10 days. Put your 10 days to test life support systems. Now, you see the problem? Would you want to be part of that crew to test life support systems? See, if it's pretty simple. It's Schrodinger's space cat all over again. In bottom, talking about Schrodinger's cat. That cat is both in superposition, alive and dead at the same time. You pick that thing up under Schrodinger's example, it could be dead in the box. It's Schrodinger's quantum example, bot. So that you pop the hatch on that damn thing when it splashes down. If they're all, you can tell if the life support worked, right? Might smell in there. You understand where I'm going with this? Right from the initial press conference, the first one. Sir, how will you know if your life support systems worked? The crew will come back alive. If not, we'll know. Sign me up for that mission. Just a tad better than what was called, quote, kamikaze, that the Japanese practiced shortly into the War of the Pacific in World War II. So say it with me. Same model car and tire. Pushed it back again. NASA said the delays would allow its teams to work through development challenges associated with the program, which partners with private companies, including Elon Musk's lone scum SpaceX and Lockheed Martin, and uses some largely untested spacecraft and technology. Why would it be, quote, largely untested? Just go dust off the damn thing you used in 69. It worked. I saw the movie. They shut that thing down cold, remember? You can't even run a vacuum cleaner on 5 amps, John. They restarted it cold, and it worked. Get the actual pieces of metal from 69. You don't need no new technology. Just get the old shit. Rip it out of the Smithsonian Museum if you need to. Don't be telling me you need to delay after delay because, Lone Scum's got to push out a new electric car, so it's going to delay everything. His car company comes first before your space program. There's a quote here. We are returning to the moon in a way we never have before. Yeah, I'll address that. And the safety of our astronauts is NASA's top priority as we prepare for future Artemis missions, said the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson. You know what I'm going to say? Bill, thou art a villain. We're returning to the moon as we never have before. Sure. Via digital CGI. That's never been done before. You're returning to a digital moon that is represented in a digital virtual environment on a computer some way using digital twin representation. I agree with you. This is entirely accurate. That's, in a way, returning to a fake moon that's never been done before. I'll give him that. This part, the only part of the article here that's actually true. The safety of our astronauts are NASA's top priority. You've never lost an American in space. Well, nobody's gone anywhere, but let's just stick with the history. They've never lost somebody. Why would they even care about safety? It's routine. Well, Matt, what about Challenger then? Oh yeah, Challenger. Well, let's address that. First off, I said in space. Challenger was that? You're really smart, and that wasn't in space, but that doesn't count anyway. Because remember, Christine McAuliffe, they were all strapped in, just like they strapped to use it. Remember in Armageddon, I want mine really tight, almost to the point of cutting off circulation. They said, time to get out now. Didn't you see Capricorn 1? With O.J. Simpson, whether they knew or not, he said, time to get out now. You get out and we put this fruit basket in your place and we take you and we act out scenes from Capricorn 1, whether they knew or not. He said, I'm not getting out. Well, if you don't get out, have you ever seen scenes from this movie? Trust me, you don't want to go on this flight. You get out now. We act out scenes from Capricorn 1 and we put this fruit basket in your place. So that's what happened with Challenger, sir. What do you think? I just fell off the turnip truck? Point of note before moving on, if anybody really wants a Pootie Tang Award, put in the comment that these people have been found and they're alive and well in their teaching jobs. Put in that in the comments if you really want a Pootie Tang Award, because people in this classroom are not aware of that. Last paragraph before concluding this ridiculous, absurd story. Washington, D.C. wants to establish a long-term human presence outside Earth's orbit, including construction of a lunar base camp, as well as a space station that circles the moon. It brings to mind remember the band Naked Eyes from the early 80s? NASA gave me promises, no, they'll never keep. It's naked, the covering of one eye. So its ultimate plans are to send people to Mars. Here it is again. Get your ass to Mars. Elon Musk's Mars always has to be brought into it. By the way, they promised Mars by now. But there's many speeches where they promised Mars. Basically, you saw Total Recall. The whole colonies, Venusville, everything should already be there per what they've promised. I'm not even joking. Now we have to do the moon first. So more delays. When you get to Mars, go to the Brubaker Hotel, present the idea to Melina. I don't remember you. That shit, Benny, I got 6 kids to feed, man. That should all be done by now based on what they promised us. Recapping, its ultimate plans are to send people to Mars, but it has decided to return to the moon first to learn more about deep space before embarking on what would be a months-long voyage to the red planet. But wait, they've decided to return to the moon first to learn more about deep space. They've told us they've put people into deep space for the last 65 years. What else is there to learn? You have Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, whatever they did. They sent monkeys up there before Mercury. What if a kid in high school said, I can't take this math test now. I need to prepare. I need 65 years to prepare for the math test. They've been doing it. So what they tell us for 65 years. And what's this talk about? A month-long journey to the red planet. You haven't even done the moon yet. You've never done the moon. Months-long journey. It's not going to be a month. It's basically 3 hours in front of a blue screen is what it'll be. Guess what? They already have it filmed. Back in the day, it took them 8 years to do the Zapruder film. But in terms of the Mars and Artemis, it's already done, folks. It's already filmed. You don't call it filmed if it comes from the Stable Diffusion or DALL-E or one of the AI rendering models inside the Cray supercomputers. It's not called filmed. I don't know. You know what I mean. It's all done. And the movie is there for whenever they need it. But why use it if they don't need it? Like we've talked about a lot recently, their Whopper supercomputer has the pulse on exactly what the Overton window of the American dumbed-down, chlorined, fluorided public will accept. Right there with him at the creepy table. Ask the Whopper if we can push back the Artemis, if the American people will accept that. And then at that moment, it collects up teraquats or whatever of information in a split second, and a little ticker tape spits out the end. I don't think it has a real ticker tape. It would be a nice retro touch if it did. Whopper says American public will accept Artemis delays to 2025 for Artemis 2 and 2026 for Artemis 3. How much will accept it? 98%. Those same 2% conspiracy malcontents, yeah, they're the ones that are going to push back. But Whopper also says those people have been marginalized, and their family and friends think they're friggin' nuts, so it doesn't matter what those dumbasses think. All right, great. Mission's off. Tell NASA it's push back and their compartmentalized workers. Keep them working on the glove and the little screw, and this guy works on the lever, and none of them know what the hell's going on. Who knows how they pull it off? It's a reality breakdown to me, but we just present it like this just for the purpose of the old-fashioned radio show. How it's all pulled off is a reality breakdown. Far worse than how all the colonial powers have screwed over all the indigenous for the past 450 years. Tell them we're pushing it back. And the Whopper also says we can push it back 50 more times, and the American public will accept it up to 90%. If we push it back past the year 2500, a few people might start to question. All right, get it done. At just over 20 minutes into the old-fashioned radio show, it's time for the Jester Joke Round and to present one of our sponsors. The Jester Joke Round. We don't want any confusion regarding what trolls put forth. Jokes will be told, and they're very good. I think my neighbor is stalking me, as she's been Googling my name on her computer. I saw it through my telescope last night. That's a friggin' knee slapper, too. As usual, our long-term sponsors are still with us. Senator Marco Rubio's bubble parties of Central and South Florida, motto and tagline, what happens under the bubbles stays under the bubbles, with new locations in Tallahassee and El Paso, Texas. I'd like to thank Senator Marco Rubio personally for being a long-term sponsor of the old-fashioned radio show. And folks, one person believed that was true. Second, Joe Biden's Deliverance inbred banjos. Note here, buy banjo today, get one free, and $10 go to Joe Biden's re-election campaign. The new version plays the opening scene from Deliverance itself, basically like a player piano. You just plug it in or put in 4D batteries. It goes ding, 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 ding. Then it plays Hail to the Chief. Act now. Discount code Deliverance. And finally, Michael O's Tuck Guard underwear with new tagline, if you have a Christmas package to hide it with confidence. Act now with new promo code Handful of Nuts. Our newest sponsor is a book that I'm holding right here in my hands. It's co-written by Billy and Stephen Baldwin. It's called Walking Behind the Shadow of Greatness. If you flip it over, there's a picture of Billy Baldwin and Stephen Baldwin in their most famous roles, the only roles they ever had, one Backdraft, one Barney Rubble in the Flintstone movie, and it says, even when our big brother called his daughter a disgusting little pig, he was still more popular and famous than we were. I read a few pages of the book, ladies and gentlemen, and I highly recommend it. about the emotional trauma that these two have gone through as their older brother over time has become more of a disgusting, despicable human being. They can't surpass him in terms of their career. Even when older brother was involved in an involuntary homicide or manslaughter, someone was killed on the set of Rust, filming of the movie Rust, they still couldn't surpass the older brother. Do you know what kind of emotional trauma and baggage that sort of thing carries? Read the book. Discount code, disgusting little pig. There's a movie review channel called Echo Chamberlain, one of the few I'm subscribed to. He can be very highbrow, intellectually funny, and very witty in terms of how he makes his presentations. What he talked about in his most recent video is something that I wanted to talk about for a long time. And it was very well presented. And I don't even know where this is going. I just want to throw it out to you. His premise is how in Hollywood movies or in Disney Star Wars series or whatever, nobody dies, or an inordinate amount of people that are clearly dead in one movie or one TV show appear later, or they come back from wounds that couldn't possibly be overcome. I noticed this years ago. I don't know what the Not Milk's intention is with this, but there's something weird going on with this. Yeah, it's not just poor writing like the movie reviewers would see it. Something dark or occult going on. There's a message of, I'm not going to get to the bottom of it here. I just wanted to toss it out. So in the Obi-Wan Disney Star Wars series, two characters get lightsabered right through. And then they live through their wounds. In Ahsoka, another character gets lightsabered through, lives through the wounds. They brought Palpatine back, who was in Return of the Jedi, was thrown down that energy hole and went to nothing, and he came back. This is happening over and over again. People pop up again in another movie, and there's some bullshit to explain why they're back. What I'm saying, Matt, they're desperate. Their writers can't come up with any new ideas. This is all they can do. No. Okay. First off, we know they're all made bad on purpose. It's not, I'm tired of what these movie reviewers keep saying, that it's bad writing and there's no more creativity. Oh, bullshit. It's all made bad on purpose. And if it is that dark and that sinister, this concept of people coming back to life, I'm not going to get to the bottom of it. There's something to this. There's something related to Not Milk with this. It's very dark. And I just look to your comments. I'll continue to think about it and to ponder it. And what is being said, I don't know. But it's not just bad writing or lack of creativity, or they need to bring the character back, or the show would struggle. Then why kill the character in the first place? Why not just have Sabine? I watched a few episodes of that horrible, dreadful Ahsoka. Why didn't she just get an arm cut off or a flesh wound? She doesn't have to get stabbed right through. Every first grade writer would know you can't just bring a character back after they're stabbed straight through with a lightsaber. So in this case, if anybody's yelling at me, I can hear you in this case. That also is used to ruin the initial Star Wars. Everything that Disney has done since they got Star Wars is about ruining or destroying the entire franchise, which by association destroys what they're out to do, destroys the first three. So if you keep inserting ridiculous elements into what is called Star Wars, in a way, by association, it harms the first three. That's what's going on there, but this theme is much broader and much more general. How these characters, after clearly dying, just somehow come back to life, or, okay, we're not going to get to the bottom of it. I'll look to your comments if anybody has any ideas. We'll continue to talk about it. Our next segment is always a crowd pleaser, the Stalled Century Update. The Stalled It's like a bright boy, the Stalled Century Update. The last time we gave an update, it was Beverly Hills Cop, 6 was it? Or they're bringing back a 85-year-old Eddie Murphy, a Judge Reinhold in a wheelchair, and the other guy, Taggart, I guess his name. Nobody ever knew the actor's real name. It was just Taggart. He was never in anything again. It's Judge Reinhold, who was also in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Eddie Murphy did a lot of stuff, and then Taggart. Sorry, Taggart. Nobody knows your real name. They're all getting together as geriatrics. That's the last time we talked about Stalled Century. This time it's Roadhouse. They're redoing the Patrick Swayze 1989 classic with, was his name, Jake Gillen Diker Hall, he's the guy from, just a classic. I get tears thinking about it. Brokeback Mountain. Him and Heath Ledger. You want to talk about tender moments? I'd like to do get a whole video on Brokeback. I'd like to do a whole YouTube channel on just that one, just that one movie. Jake Gyllenhaal or whatever as the Patrick Swayze cooler in Roadhouse. The Double Deuce. Remember that? They're redoing, or I guess they're out to ruin another classic like the Hollywood's been doing for the past 20 years. I didn't know there was a difference between No Bouncer and No Cooler. You can learn a lot of shit watching those old Patrick Swayze movies. I'm the cooler. You're the bouncer. You don't act till I act. I almost didn't go to business school at Penn State. I wanted to be a cooler, but I wasn't that tough. It was the coolest job I've ever seen. I want to say, where can I apply to be a cooler? I don't care. I'll take karate lessons or whatever. I thought that was the coolest damn thing I ever saw. I almost didn't go to business school at Penn State. Now they're out to ruin it with Jake Gyllenhaal or whatever from Brokeback. And as always, we remind you, if you have Stalled Century updates, put them in the comments, just like we used to send our pictures to dear old Captain Noah in the Philadelphia area. Make sure you put your Stalled Century updates in the comments section. And if they're worthy, we'll talk about them in upcoming Stalled Century segments. One quick note, guys, something that deserves a little props is part of Stalled Century, but it's just was too good to be put. Stalled Century is mostly about ruining what came before. Redoing, but ruining. There's very few things anybody could point to that said the new gave any credit at all to the old or in any way supported the old. But there is one exception, if there are few and far between. Coming to America 2. Okay. Do you know how impossible? You know how I say me, you, and Greg book us into the room. We book us into the room. We could write the new Star Wars better than that little sawed off Rian Johnson. We could do better than J.J. Abrams. We could do better. Of course, we could. One night, just storyboarding, we could do better in terms of all these movies. The ruination of the Terminator franchise. But for Coming to America, if you booked me, you, and Greg, book us into the room, we wouldn't be able to do better than what they did with Coming to, the number 2, America. Now, it was hokey, it was goofy, it was a clown show at times, but what are you going to do? I honestly believe they did the best they could. There were some cringeworthy moments, but they did the best they could. The point is they didn't try to ruin the first. In some weird way, it supports the original Coming to America. It doesn't ruin it. It wasn't too many cringeworthy. Guys, I'm just saying, you book us into the room, we wouldn't be able to do better. It was about as good as, it's hard to redo that movie. I saw it for the second time. I've seen it originally when it first came out. It's not my favorite movie, but you know what? Let's not always be haters. Let's give some credit where credit's due. It's jest or joke time. If you think nobody cares whether you're alive, try missing a couple of payments. And since this is the 2-for-1 segment, Denny's has a slogan. If it's your birthday, the meal's on us. If you're at Denny's and it's your birthday, your life sucks. Wait a second. What does that mean for me? Denny's sounds pretty good to me on my birthday. I'm opening up a can of chunky soup typically on my birthday with a few cats. Denny's is like a night out for me. Oh man. But y'all know this is false. Typically on my birthday, when I'm finishing up at the Joe Rogan Studios, I go spend my $100 million. What else would you do? Getting back to the news that you care about, at the 33-minute mark of this presentation, this is very appropriate, takeaways from the $83.3 million verdict against Donald Trump. Oh no. $83.3 million jury verdict against Donald Trump. I had no idea. How's this going to harm his presidential campaign race? A jury said that Donald Trump should pay $83.3 million in damages on Friday, an eye-popping sum that marks the sharpest legal setback for a former president now entangled in multiple criminal and civil cases while he campaigns for the White House. See, here it says a jury, look at the way they word it. A jury said that Donald Trump should pay $83.3 million. Well, was there a judgment or not? Can you just go out and commit a crime, go before the judge, and I think you should go to jail for 20 years, but I don't want to do that. Oh, well, I think you should, but if you don't want to, you can leave the courtroom now. Look at the way they word it. It sounds like a suggestion. Should pay. Come on. This is a joke. The verdict was the second time over the past year that a jury has awarded E. Jean Carroll millions of dollars in damages from Trump for his defamatory statements disparaging her and denying her rape allegations. How does that work? It says the second time in the past year, this person has been awarded millions of dollars. So can she just find another court, sue him again, get millions of dollars? Then she just find another court, sue him again? I mean, is there any, I thought, if there's a civil case, then there's, okay, assuming there's anything legitimate about it, obviously I have my concerns there, but no, let's not stray. I'm just reading a news article here. So if there's a civil award, well, then that's the award. You can do it again? The second, is there going to be a third suit and a fourth suit? It doesn't make any sense. The Not Milk is a master at breaking down what people thought they knew. Whatever they thought had a degree of legitimacy, and it not targeted at us, we can see right through us. It does these psychological tactics to the masses. This group over here believes they understand the legal system. Well, sue them for the same thing twice in two different courts. And the people go, well, how's that? And then over here, people think they understand this part of government, and they present something that doesn't make any sense. And going back to, remember there was was it in South Carolina? There was it was a legal case against that Dylan Storm Roof. There was a case against, he was up for murder, and they brought the victims' families in to scream or yell. But the most, of course, they forgave him, of course, but they could say whatever they want. Is anybody asking what's the problem? There had been no trial yet. There had been no conviction. We've heard a few times in our lives, innocent until proven guilty. I don't know have you ever heard that? I don't know. There had been no trial. Typically, whenever victims' families are allowed to speak, it's the day of sentencing after everything's been done. Guys, this was so bizarro, such a complete breakdown of anything we understood to be the legal system. I remember I looked at it 4 or 5 times. I said, this just can't be. This can't be. It has to be something else. I looked at it and I looked at it. It was his first day. It was an appearance like via closed circuit TV. And the families were allowed to talk. They were allowed to damn his soul to hell, forgive him or whatever. There had been no conviction. What? Is anybody trying to say to me right now, well, surely he must have signed a confession, or they have his confession. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what confession he might have signed or what he said to some Ice-T officer in the special, Law and Order Special Victims Unit. Is there anything more lame than Ice-T and Law and Order Special Victims Unit? It doesn't matter. There's a procedure they told us we have. There's rights they tell us you have to go through the process in the court of law, so they say. Not anymore. Nobody said anything except people in our group, of course. So nobody, attorneys, police officers, district attorney, nobody said anything. The news didn't mention it. A complete reality, almost a breakdown. It made no, to this day, it's so bizarre. I still think I must have gotten that wrong, but I know I didn't. There's just no way. So this is what the Not Milk does. It destroys the people's notion or belief in something is what it does. All right, guys, it's been a while, I know, since the last old-fashioned radio show. Since our reality it's a half page, and it's pretty simple what's going on here. To me, it's very simple. I don't think that's just some delusional rationalization so I can sleep at night. I really, as it has grown more complicated, seeing through it becomes almost easier. So we'll do more stuff like this. I'm telling you what, I would really love to do debates, not against trolls. I mean, that is ridiculous. The trolls, they don't deserve anyone's attention. The brain power of a small iguana lizard. I would love to debate, like I've said before, like this professor down the road here at St. Joe University or University of Pennsylvania or Villanova University that think they're so smart and have all this stuff figured out. I'd love to poke holes in the reality. I doubt any of them will ever have me over for Christmas dinner or allow me to enter their classroom. No, I don't think that's going to happen, but that would be my dream. That would really be my dream. Today, we bring in a guest to debate the moon landing with Professor of Cosmology. Cosmetology? That's just beauty studies. Cosmology is the word. Matt, if you don't even know the word, you ain't going to do very well in a debate against one of these professors. I think I do pretty well. Thanks for listening.